Hello ladies and gents, another video brought to you by Ant's Hood. In today's video it's going to be about my Camponotus Parius, and yes, finally they are growing. Now I've had these Camponotus for about 2 years and they have struggled. They've been the bane of my life. They are still relatively small considering they're 2 years old. When you take something like my Camponotus Nicobarensis, for example, I couldn't think of the name for some strange reason, even though I'm staring at them while I'm talking to you guys now, which grow relatively quick anyway, but I'd expect them to be bigger than they are now. But anyway, I'll stop talking about that and just check out how they were in my last video. So here's my Parius about 5 months ago at the time of the last video, and I put a link in the top right corner now so you guys can check it out. But if we get the macro lens where we can see them a bit better, you'll see here, well, this is old footage, by the way. I've actually taken this from my other video, to be fair, because I didn't have the original footage. But you can clearly see they've got some brood, not a great deal amount, but they're quite chilling quite happily. Like I said, this is off my old video, so it is old footage, just bear that in mind. What was nice about this footage was actually you could see the queen and stuff actually using the queen's chamber, which I designed into the nest. I've not even told you what nest they're in, have I? Okay, let me start again. So if you guys cast your minds back to about a year ago, I was playing around with 3D printing stuff and I printed my own nest, designed my own nest, printed it, and I spelt Camponotus wrong. I missed the O out. I'm glad I didn't sell this because that would just be embarrassing. But yes, anyway, so this is my nest that I 3D printed, and I built a queen's chamber into it, which is basically this thing here. So the purpose for this queen's chamber is people make mistakes and put them ants in far too much bigger nest for them, like these particularly are here. And what I've done is made a queen's chamber with a narrow entrance, so if they do get put, people use this nest and put a colony that's far too big, too small for this nest, then they can retreat to the queen's chamber, which is narrow in height, small, and it's got a closed entrance, so hopefully they'll feel more comfortable. And it clearly worked here because you can see the queen sat in it now. And for the record, I know this colony is too small for this nest. I did it on purpose to test out the queen's chamber, and it works. And how do I know that it works? Well, check them out now. This is them now. As you can see, I don't know my exact numbers because I'm not going to sit and count individual ants, but I'm going to guesstimate and say I've got around 200, 250 workers. Considering I've had these for over 2 years, and 10 months ago I had about 20 5 months ago I had about 20 workers, they're doing really well. I mean, look at them. Now these have got to be my most neglected ants. Because they've been such a pain for me to keep over the past 2 years, I literally just stuck them on a shelf, fed them in my normal routine and left them to it. Didn't disturb the nest, didn't look into it. And when I did look into it, I was shocked to see how big they'd gotten and how much brood they'd got too. Now you guys know I love a macro shot, let's go. So this is them currently as they are with a macro lens. I cannot tell you how much I love the colour of these guys. They kind of look a bit, with a banded abdomen, they kind of look a bit like Formica fuscas or Formicas, but they're not. They're definitely Camponotus, I'd like to point out. So as you can see, this brood pile is absolutely huge. It's mainly consisted, there's some fresh eggs there, awesome. It's mainly consisted of pupae, and I can't remember exactly when I built this or how I designed it, but I think they're about 1.5 centimeters deep, those little chambers. So I've got at least 1.5 centimeters deep worth of brood in there. As you can see, the numbers have really done really well. There is brood elsewhere too. As you can see here, they've got some more brood here, which is cool. Now this dirty area was their original trash because the nest was obviously clearly too big for them. But like I said, that was part of my experiment before anyone starts whinging. But yeah, so that was where they put most of the trash, but they emptied it out into the outworld. And when I seen that, I scratched my head and was like, why have they done that for? Maybe they need the space. So I had a look and then I seen them at the numbers they are now. But generally speaking, I have left these to it. I top up the water tray for the nest and I feed them, and that's pretty much it. I very rarely check them, but that's a major there as well. Cool. Now, because my interest has been sparked with these again, I did a little bit of YouTube research on them to see if anybody else had a successful colony of these, because they are not a species you regularly see on YouTube. Now, I've got no illusions that this is probably one of my lowest viewed videos because nobody's really interested in Camponotus Parius. I don't know why, because the colours on them, as you can see here, they're absolutely gorgeous, and I think I love the shimmering when you get them in the light and stuff like that, and you can even see that in the outworld when they're bombing around as well. It is really pretty. I digressed again, but the point I was trying to make is that I've actually not seen any YouTubers that have got a massively successful colony outside of their homeland of Asia. Now, I know full well there will be people out there, and I think there's a Russian one that's got quite a big colony as well, but they seem to be the exception and not the rule. So, how have I been keeping these? And you're probably going to tell me off, actually, believe it or not. So the humidity is pretty standard for Camponotus. It's 50 to 70%, and that's regulated by my nest, so I'm not that bothered by it. I pay very little attention to it anyway. But the temperature, they say on all the guides that I've got from retailers and stuff like that, is it's around 24 to 28 degrees, which is roughly the same as my Nicobarensis, but I've not been keeping at that temperature. On average, these have been sat at 30 degrees. Now, that's because I've got a heat cable going through it, and the heat cable sensor's connected to something else, and it doesn't always turn itself off when it should do, but on average they're about 30 degrees, which is hotter. And I knew that it was hot at 30, I knew that it was above what they normally tolerate, but I tried everything else, so I just thought, do you know what, I'm just going to leave it and see how they get on. And I think the increased in heat is the difference, because around October time is when I got my leaf cutter ants, and then I started heating my room to 25 degrees, and then they've had the heat cable to push it up above. So I think should I say, since October, since I got my leaf cutters, these have exploded because they have been kept at a higher temperature. Now, I'm not telling you guys to go against the advice and keep yours at 30 degrees, because you will potentially kill them. So I am not telling you to do that, but this is what has happened with me, and mine are doing very well. If you're going to keep them at the higher end of the temperature, by all means keep them at 28 and see how they get on. To tell you the truth, my Nicobarensis are sitting at 26.5 to 27, so they're near the top end of their heat range as well. And they do generally okay. They're up and down like bloody yo-yos though, to be honest, but yeah, they generally do okay. I also acknowledge the fact that I'm just using a cheap, like, couple of pound off eBay for my motor to register the temperature. So I would recommend that if you're going to keep these, keep them at 28 degrees at the top end of what they want, and not in the middle like I generally aim for. There's the queen, looking beautiful as always. So that's what I've been doing. Other than that, I've just been feeding them carbohydrates, and I've been feeding them cockroaches. Like I said, paid very little interest in these until I've seen some strange activity, which was them clearing out the trash out of the nest. I did actually ask this in my previous video, and I'm going to ask it again. If anyone has a successful colony of Camponotus Parius, please message me, because I am very interested on how you've kept them and how you're keeping them. Because, like I said, they're very pretty, but I've had nothing but nightmares until recently with these girls. But as you can clearly see from the video it was just on, they are doing incredibly well. Probably should add now, they're doing incredibly well now, because I've had a nightmare with them for nearly 2 years, but they're doing all right now, and I'm really pleased. Now, clearly I've sped this up because I don't move that fast. It's pointing out as well, in the background you'll see that that's my Camponotus Nicobarensis, and I've not got around to cleaning them out yet, so don't criticise me. I know they're dirty, I know they've got no carbohydrates, blah 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 blah. I have not got around to it yet. Stop whinging. Oh, that's a good point actually, just because I've seen it there. This blue stuff is from Anty, and if you've got a colony that you don't change or don't have a high requirement for carbohydrates, it's really good because it's got preservatives in it and it lasts longer than honey water. Now, hate is flowing like a river at the moment, so I'm just doing this just to point out that yes, I know that the tray is dirty. Yes, I know it is calcium carbonate because I live in a hard water area. But if you look underneath the nest, it is relatively clear and clean, and I have got no interest at the moment in cleaning it out. I'm aware of it. It's not an issue for my ants. It's not dirty in the ants' nest. It is just calcium carbonate because I live in a hard water area. Hate to stop hating. You're boring me. All in all, I'm very pleased with how my Parises have got on. They're doing really well considering that I've given them very little mind in any shape or form. I do need to move them onto a shelf, I think, so I can actually view them a bit more now because they're getting bigger and more interesting. And this is their first dedicated video. How cool's that? But anyway, I'll stop talking rubbish. So thank you guys. As always, this channel wouldn't be what it is without you guys watching my videos and subscribing. So thank you very much for that. But also a big massive thank you to my Patreons. So I'd just like to say a big super massive thanks to my Patreon supporters, because without you guys my channel wouldn't be what it is. And that's Adam W, Adrian, Antantics, Anty Matters, David D, Jason W, Kevin R, Paul A, Pavance, PJGrant and Wakooshi. Now, if you guys want to become a Patreon, I will put a link in the description below. And some of my Patreons have also got their own YouTube channels. I'll put a link to their channel in my description below as well. So please check them out. But that's it for today then, guys. I hope you enjoyed this video. I'll see you in my next one. Bye-bye for now.